Welcome to the program, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. So, Delta Airlines has suspended its special Delta desk services for members of Congress. That ought to get their attention, being treated like everybody else. This is, of course, the desk that's dedicated to booking assistants and escorts. But so they've suspended this due to the ongoing partial U.S. government shutdown we've been talking about a little bit over the last couple of days. This, of course, has to do with the Department of Homeland Security and their funding. TSA officers have gone unpaid since February 14th, leading to massive security lines at airports like Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, with up to 42% callouts. People saying we don't want to, we're trying to find other employment. Me and Rob talked about that a little bit yesterday. Of course, ICE is on the scene now, getting things flowing quickly. But you've got the CEO of Delta named Ed Bastian. He joined other airline leaders in condemning Congress and urging them to restore funding and ensure pay protections during shutdowns. But in the meantime, lawmakers must now use standard customer service features with Delta specifically based on their SkyMiles status. So, folks, I think what this may mean is we're going to have a resolution here really quickly, because once you do anything like threaten the salaries of people serving in Congress, or you threaten their perks, I don't know, historically speaking, I think that gets their attention more than people like you and me complaining and wanting our government to actually do something for us. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. Broadcasting here live from Arkansas. Rob Spencer is... What would you say he is? He is, he's busy. I'll just say it like that. Yeah, he's busy, but he's on his way. How about that? He's supposed to be here for hour number 2, so we are with you for the next 2 hours. 1 hour and 56 minutes to be precise. And so he is on his way. He had planned to be here, but, things happen, especially when you have a day job that pays the bills and such. And so, Rob, if you're listening, safe travels, my friend. We'll see you here in a little bit. In the meantime, you guys are stuck with just me, by myself, but we have a lot of news to get to, okay? The first thing, obviously, is the title of the show. We got these congressmen that are going to be treated, if they all want to fly home to their districts or they don't want to fly. Of course, with President Trump saying, hey, maybe the Easter recess is going to be canceled, so you guys will actually pass the SAVE Act. Townhall.com has this headline: Delta suspends standalone service for Congress until TSA is fully funded. So they're done with this nonsense. Delta Airlines taking a stand against the Democrats' ongoing shutdown. The Atlanta-based carriers ending the perk for members of Congress until they do their jobs and fund TSA. Look at those lines. You see that? It's insane what has been going on. Even CNN, though, has reported that ICE going to the airports, they've been forced to report, has significantly... Well, it's been a PR win, really, if anything, for ICE, even though the Democrats are trying to make this video that we even covered yesterday of this illegal being arrested, who was arrested the day before ICE got there and she tried to escape. She was already in custody. That viral video that you saw of the lady who's like, no, and all of the libs, and I think it was in San Francisco, what's your badge number? Name and badge number. That apparently happened the day before, from what I read, and it was a lady who was already in custody and was trying to escape. She came in 2019. There was a deportation order on her since 2019, and she's been here the whole time, which is exactly. I mean, sometimes it's conservatives. We think, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong on this one. You see that video yesterday, and you're like, we just have too much benefit of the doubt at this point. But you're tempted to be like, well, maybe she didn't do anything wrong. Well, we'll see. But then you find out, and it's like, no, it is kind of what your gut was telling you, that something's not quite right here, like the entire time. That's not to say that you shouldn't still give the benefit of the doubt when appropriate, but anyway. So yeah, Delta suspended the desk. I think this is hilarious. Let's see here. What is the? Here's more. That you read that right. The same members of Congress who have failed to fund the TSA for the last 6 weeks may or may not be waiting in the unimaginably long security lines they're causing. They don't all use the perk, but according to Cornyn, they do have the option. So anyway, this is maybe going to get them. Maybe going to get them to move. Maybe this will get the Democrats to move when they're flying home to their districts, and Republicans for that matter. But it's mainly with just the Democrats in this particular issue. Maybe this will finally, because the Democrats, they just traditionally. When it's really cold outside, you say, hey, it's so cold that a Democrat had their hands in their own pockets, right? So that you just never know when they actually have to suffer and they don't get treated as royalty. Maybe they'll come away, or maybe they'll want a reason. I don't know. But here's the deal, though. Here's this other headline: the House GOP election proposals could end up in reconciliation bill. All right, so. We're now getting word that, so moving on now to the SAVE Act. So we were talking about DHS funding, now moving on to the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act, this has all been a show of theater. You guys know this. We've been hyperly critical of all of the inaction by the Republican Party, how they are, many of them are up there with the sole purpose of staying in office. And one of the ways they stay in office is by going on record the least amount of times possible. So many of the procedures are designed to keep these guys from ever going on record to actually have to face the voters. And then, of course, they have their own status quo back in their home state. The force is there. Think of them as just many deep states that are going to make sure that the incumbent has all of the support possible, and they make it difficult on primary challengers. Here in my home state of Arkansas, the Republican Party has jacked the filing fee to a ridiculous amount because they really want to limit access to the ballot, because they don't want, they don't want the incumbents to have to be bothered with it, I guess. But anyway, the point is, they are up there and they don't want to have to out themselves as not actually being for what the people are for. Now, what are the people for? The people are for voter ID. Their people are, they want to end mail-in ballots. They also many of us want to get rid of these machines because a machine can steal it even after you present your ID, and we've talked about that, and we're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But so now they are. They don't want to get rid of the silent filibuster. They don't want to do the talking filibuster. And so now we're hearing these strange reports. And I believe it's strange because I don't understand what the purpose of this is other than just more theater and spectacle. This headline by Meredith Lee Hill: the House GOP election proposals could end up in a reconciliation bill. The list is being circulated by the House Administration Chair Brian Steele. The chair of the House Committee overseeing elections is circulating a list of proposals to include in a budget reconciliation bill as Senate Republicans and the White House move to rev up the party line process to pass pieces of contentious GOP voting bill in the coming months. The list from House Administration Chair Brian Steele, Republican, Wisconsin, is a peek at what sort of provisions Republicans could try and pass under reconciliation, which is strictly reserved for legislation with a direct fiscal impact. So you only need 51 votes out of 100. In this case, a lot of people say that it would just be 50 votes with J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, breaking the tie. And so now you hear this right. Like, if we were to get rid of the filibuster, I'm sure many of you are asking the same question. This is my immediate thought was, what's the difference in doing legislative sleight of hand with these rules to say, hey, this legislation has a direct fiscal impact, so we only need 51 votes. Surprise, surprise. What's the difference in doing that and doing a talking filibuster, or getting rid of the unconstitutional, in my opinion, filibuster altogether, the silent filibuster, where these guys don't actually have to do any work? the type of work that we're now learning, that I learned last week, if you really stop and think about it, would put many of these old people in their graves if they had to stay up 24 hours, 48 hours, extending the legislative day to try to get something passed and actually have to debate and engage the other side the way the system was designed before it was essentially neutered from anything spontaneous or unpredictable from ever being thrown into the mix. They don't want that. The people that control the politicians don't want that. They, the special interests, the corporations, they don't want any of that. They don't want representatives to actually legislate anymore. They all want predetermined outcomes, predetermined results, and the result really is that we've been robbed of our system. We've been robbed of our own government. We've been robbed of our rights by this perversion of the silent filibuster. And also, I think it prevents civil war. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the real point of it all. And when I say that, I don't mean to be provocative, but I think honestly, we have never, because of the silent filibuster, we have never been able to experience a true right-wing government. We've not really been able to experience a true, well, this is the far right's ideas for how things are going to work. And here are the laws they passed to make this a reality. So the American people have never really been able to say, hey, that was good, this was bad, maybe we should moderate that. No, because of the silent filibuster. Because, no, in order to get real change, you're going to have 60 votes. Again, this is the truth, unless they're trying to directly injure the American people, like with Obamacare or something like that. And then all of a sudden, we don't care about the filibuster. we think your life is worth a tax. We'll call it a life insurance policy. By the time when you're born, you owe the government a tax just for being alive. Likewise, on the left side of the spectrum, we really haven't truly experienced what the left's version of this country would be like, with carbon taxes and gun confiscation and abortion in all 50 states up to 9 months. Like, we haven't ever gotten to experience that either because of the 60 vote threshold. So we're not actually, it only benefits those in power. We're not actually able to try their ideas out, realize how terrible it is, hold them accountable, reject them, and change course. We're not given that. We're not given that opportunity because our system is fundamentally not working the way it was designed to because of the silent filibuster. That's why I said I think in a lot of ways it's prevented us from dividing as a country, because you and I both know that if the Democrats got to confiscate guns the way they want to, it would not end very well for the preservation of life, let's just say. It would be a very ugly powder keg mess, and somebody would light the fuse. Just my 2 cents on that. So now we're being told, and I'm sorry this article is just, this political article is not populating on the screen quite right. It's still not, because it's just have a different setting on it. But yeah, we can do it like that. Now we're being told that the House GOP election proposals could end up in a reconciliation bill where they still only need 50 votes. And so I'm curious as to why these Republican senators in the Senate are going to be are going to respond positively to this strategy. John Thune went to the mics and said they're considering this, that they're considering using reconciliation to pass the SAVE Act. I'm just curious, why are the Republican senators who are the holdouts on getting rid of the filibuster or doing the standing filibuster all of a sudden okay with a reconciliation process? Because the Democrats could turn. The same argument is, well, we can't get rid of the filibuster because what if the Democrats get in power? You know, they'll do it too, but they'll respect us. If we don't use the power we have to get rid of the silent filibuster, then they'll do the same thing and they'll respect us when they get the majority back, and they won't remove it either. I mean, does that logic kind of fall apart if they're now going to be on board with with passing this via a reconciliation process that only requires 50 votes? You see what a sham this is? This whole thing, this whole process, Congress is their approval rating is terrible because they don't do anything. The only thing they do, and I'm sure there are Democrats that feel the same way, the only thing they do is come back with excuses as to why they can't do what they talked about on the campaign trail. And they get real creative with those excuses. They get real creative with why it's just so hard, just so difficult. And I know the younger generation is just sick and tired of it. I mean, they're over it. I think the whole system, the whole country, everything from the economy to the government, all of it is just rigged and a giant scam. And they are looking for different options. And speaking of things that are rigged and a giant scam, you could also look at our elections, as we've mentioned many times. And this ties directly in with trying to get the SAVE Act passed. Should the SAVE Act get passed? 100%, yes, it should, but it should even be more. And so I continue to put out my scenario. My scenario is Congress is not going to do this. Congress does not want to do this. Specifically, the rhinos in the Senate don't want to do it. They also don't want to go on record voting against Trump, because I think many of them would if they actually went on record. And now they're somewhat insulated. Even the ones who are for getting rid of the filibuster and have come out for that, it's a safe thing to do because John Thune is never going to do it. So you get to save face, and that's the whole thing. All of these investigations and committees, let's make sound bites and put them in emails to do fundraising. That's about all we get. And don't get me wrong, as somebody who is a talk show host and somebody who needs content or likes to bring you guys content and entertaining content, it's not that I am not a fan of the committee. We played a lengthy committee for you, committee hearing last week with Rand Paul and Mark Wayne Mullen, and it was entertaining. Actually, that was one of the ones that I was I can't remember the last time I was as interested for whatever reason. I don't know if it was exciting to the audience, but it was fascinating to me. Rand Paul and Mark Wayne Mullen going back and forth. It was like watching a train wreck in a way. I'm just saying, I couldn't look away. It was so awkward. It was like office level awkward at times. But I'm not saying that I don't benefit from that, but it doesn't really do anything for us. And that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is just so frustrating. That it's come to this. But we do need voter ID nationwide. We do need to ban mail-in ballots, except for specific circumstances like absentee ballots. But my scenario is that I think Congress is going to fail at this. I think Congress is going to fail, and then I think that President Trump will pass an executive order, and I think the executive order will go even further. I think the executive order will target the machine specifically, and I think people are going to challenge it, and it'll end up in the courts, and the Supreme Court will have to rule on it. And I don't know how the Supreme Court rules, but let's assume that they do rule that Trump can declare a national emergency. Now, before he does that, he needs to use Tulsi Gabbard in her report on the election integrity and the security of our elections that supposedly has been on his desk since June of 2025. He would need to use that information. After Congress fails, he uses that information to make his case. See, look, you guys, and maybe some people would change their minds, but I doubt it. I think it'll be dead. He'll have tried Congress, and so now he's going to the executive order route to try to save the elections and, by extension, the country. But you would also have to expose the voting machines, because as we exposed and reported here on this show in Bexar County, Texas, during the primary between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, you had fraud there. You had algorithms that were being initiated after the polls closed throughout early voting, and really strange things were happening. Ballots being swapped out digitally, and then hardly any trace that anything happened. And so just because you have voter ID and you get rid of mail-in ballots doesn't mean that the electronic voting machines can be trusted. And that brings me to this. This headline here is extremely disturbing if you want election integrity. And it also shows how important your Secretary of State is, because once again, Georgia's in the headlines. And of course, we all remember people thinking that Brad Ratzenberger, the Republican Secretary of State from Georgia, was going to do something about what we all witnessed in 2020 when a water main burst in Fulton County that wasn't real, when they all quit counting the votes at the exact same time. All of these swing states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, just, we're going to quit counting right now at the exact same time, and we'll come back tomorrow. And then, of course, many of them on video not leaving and continuing to count once they thought they were alone and in the dark to carry out their wicked deeds. And that was just on the ballot side, not to mention, the 3 a.m. ballot dump, and not to mention what the machines are capable of. So I say that to just, for my Arkansas audience, Secretary of State's office can be more important than you think, and that's why Brian Norris is the grassroots candidate in the race, and we have a runoff election between Brian Norris and a state senator named Kim Hammer coming up on March the 31st, and early voting, I think, is underway. So anyway, I'm just reiterating that. This story really makes you think about the importance of your local officials. Headline: Georgia House Committee quietly removes key section of IT experts' public comment on critical voting machine vulnerabilities, written by Brian Lupo. This is incredible. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this story. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this particular story. During a hearing, the Georgia legislature on March 17, 2026, a 40-year IT professional testified public comment and offered to show the committee evidence of vulnerabilities in the election software they use. His name is Mark Cook. He was the person that testified, the witness. He testified as an expert witness in Tina Peters' trial in 2024. He used his time during public comment to offer evidence in the Georgia House Governmental Affairs Committee as they considered a Georgia election bill. By the way, if she comes to mind, say a prayer for Tina Peters, who's still in jail. The Trump administration still has not secured her release. She should have been made a federal witness and put under witness protection from day one. And she is a Gold Star mom who, last I heard, she was sick. And so, say a prayer for Tina Peters. The online recording of the hearing that includes public comment contains the following from Cook. Quote, I have evidence right here that I was hoping to show you that can show that there are absolutely, and I know you guys have heard this, but I've got the proof right here, backdoors built into electronic voting systems that allow flipping, changing of votes. The testing labs all miss this. Then they're blindly certified. Then we're told that everything is safe and secure. It's absolutely not. Mysteriously, though, according to the timestamp shown in the top right corner, Cook's public comment at one point goes from 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 18 seconds to 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 29 seconds instantly. So we've got about 10, 11 seconds missing. A cut in the testimony appears to have been made to his public comment. Now, fortunately, Cook's public comment was also recorded. The following statement, in bold, was removed from Cook's public comment. So he said all of that. I have evidence right here. I was hoping to show you that I can show you that there are absolutely, and you guys need to hear this, but I've got proof right here. Backdoors built into electronic voting machines that allow flipping, changing of votes. And this is what was edited out. Infiltrating the system, all built in, set up in a way that makes it easy and untraceable. I can demonstrate this to you even while I'm still here in this building, and am happy to do so. The testing labs all miss this, then they're blindly certified, then we're told that everything is safe and secure. It's absolutely not. So the question's got to be asked, why would this happen? Why would you take this portion of, why would it just be suddenly missing? Granted, It wasn't a streaming issue. It wasn't the connection cut out or it went blank or, had dead air or dead broadcasting for a time, because you would still have the 10 or 11 seconds of missing time. Instead, it's a cut. It's a hard cut. Matter of fact, Mr. Cook posted this to X, and we're going to watch it. And you tell me, what do you think?
We have to approach this in a common sense form here. We have to be smart about what we're doing. If we're going to make a change, we need to make a change that's actually going to solve the problem and not kick the can down the road. And again, take the control of elections away from where elections belong, which is in the people's hands. And this is not complicated to solve. We're literally filling dots out on paper. We're counting the dots, adding the dots up, and whoever has the most dots wins. That's the entire scope of our elections. So having to use computerized systems to count dots and add the dots up is the most ridiculous waste of money and theft of the very essence of us being American citizens and having a voice that I've ever seen in my life. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Cook. And if I may, the members of the committee, I'd recommend that maybe if you could send it out, whatever evidence that you have.
I'm happy to. And I'm here for today and tomorrow. I'm happy to sit down with anyone and show you firsthand so you can see with your own eyes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Infiltrating the system, all built in, set up in a way that makes it easy and untraceable. I can demonstrate this to you even while I'm still here in this building. I'm happy to do so.
Mr. Cook, I recognize you.
I appreciate it. My name is Mark Cook.
I feel like I left out a key. I think I started this video in the middle, so forgive me if I did.
I'm an election cybersecurity subject matter expert in threat assessment and common sense mitigation. I've been working on elections solid nonstop for about 6 years now. I have been working in the IT industry for 40 years. I have intrinsic knowledge that would be really important for people to understand. I have evidence right here that I was hoping to show you that can show there are absolutely, I know you guys have heard this, but I've got the proof right here, backdoors built in to electronic voting systems that allow flipping, changing of votes. So the testing labs.
You see the cut right there.
I can't believe they did that. Did you hear that? Watch it again and pay attention to the time in the upper right corner.
That allow flipping, changing of votes. So the testing labs.
Can you believe that? So much for government transparency, I guess. Well, how about we just put that audio right back where they clipped it out so everyone can hear it. Enjoy.
That allow flipping, changing of votes.
Infiltrating the system, all built in, set up in a way that makes it easy and untraceable. I can demonstrate this to you even while I'm still here in this building. I'm happy to do so.
The testing labs.
So there you have it. People, I implore you. I implore you. I struggle to find a explanation for this that is not nefarious. So I'm going to go forward and assume that it is nefarious. Folks, if our country is over, it's done, if we can't have open and honest debate in a legislative committee where the public is able to go to the end of the table, if we can't do that without censorship, this country's done. And what this video is it shows an allergy to accountability. It shows how deep the corruption really is, and it shows you the depths and, honestly, dare I say, the fear of those at the top and the links they'll go to run from accountability. They're afraid. If this is done intentionally, which I think it is, this is about fear, and this is about running, and this is about a lack of accountability. Nobody wants this to be exposed and to change. Carrie Lake writes, why would they remove this 10 seconds of Mark's testimony? Who ordered the removal? Who would do such a thing? Back to the Gateway Pundit article. These back doors are not necessarily a new discovery. In Georgia, it was discovered that the encryption keys were displayed in plain text in the software. Phil Davis, another IT expert who previously testified before the Georgia State Election Board, discovered the password in an open records request written in plain text format. The Gateway Pundit previously mentioned this discovery while reporting on the voluntary seizure of Dominion voting machines in Puerto Rico following critical issues in the June 2024 primary election. And then of course they've got so many receipts about when they took the photo. This is one of the greatest trolls ever. When they took the photo with with Dan Kemp, the governor of Georgia, and he reportedly asks these ladies who want election accountability, who are representing the grassroots of Georgia, who were there and went to bed in Georgia with Donald Trump leading, and then they woke up to Joe Biden being the president, and they get in the room with Brian Kemp, and Brian Kemp's like, "What does that stuff on your shirt mean?" He's like, "Oh, these are the election codes that we found that anybody could find because our elections are not secure." Anyway, this story is huge, though, and again, this is a report about what happened, the missing footage, but there's no explanation that I can see as to why it happened and who did this and who ordered it. But again, I'll just tell you that this is about the lack of accountability, lack of corruption, and if this stuff like this doesn't bother you, I really don't. I don't know what to tell you. Our elections are clearly not secure. They are vulnerable. They're very vulnerable. That's not to say that all elections can't be trusted, but they are very vulnerable. And when you have a lot of money involved, when you have a lot of campaign funds raised, and the amount of money, for example, John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, Cornyn was spending a ton of money, and the groups around Cornyn a ton of money. Spent like over $100 a vote, where Paxton was spending like $5 a vote. That's what it ended up coming up to be. So when there's that amount of money involved and the amount of people, Paxton could lose a lot of people a lot of money if you don't have that vote to keep the status quo going. And so that's where you get the cheating. That's where people are willing to risk their freedom to cheat. And let's be honest, there's really not a lot of risk involved right now, is there? Because who's actually been held accountable? Not really anybody. And also, let's just also say this, there's really not much risk anyway, because you're dealing with very complex computer programs that nobody really truly understands. We're dealing with source code that runs these machines that are proprietary, third party, and we don't have a right to access. Private companies are running our elections. We don't have a right to inspect them. It makes absolutely no sense in the rise of artificial intelligence, and I'm going to say this again, it is insane for your position to be that voting machines are still the way to go. It's absolutely insane. The technology is far outpaced anything that we can imagine, and it is insane to continue down this path. If anybody's ever seen the early to mid 2000s series Battlestar Galactica, I'm sorry to nerd out, but you know what I mean. Like, network computers are the enemy, right? Because the machines turn against everybody, and they turn your own systems against you. And so we've got some serious reforms. The rise of the neo-Amish. I've got to always mention it. The rise of the neo-Amish. The technology's getting so fast, and it's getting so all-encompassing that people are going to want to know the other entities they're interacting with are human beings with souls, not soulless machines or even borderlining on the demonic. As we brought you that story that Rob and Eric couldn't even sit through the video of the lady asking ChatGPT to say Jesus is Lord 50 times, and about number 20, the screams in the background, the struggling, the breathing. AI did not like to say Jesus is Lord. So, by the way, a little update on Rob. Hang on one second. update on Rob real quick. Let me see here. Rob said this was about 10, 12 minutes ago. He said, I'll be there in about 25 minutes. So we're definitely going to have Rob on for the second hour, sitting in co-host seat number 2 here in just a minute. Let me check in on LFA TV and the great, you guys are fantastic. Unwokeable on LFA TV chat over on Rumble says, it's not insane when they really want to destroy the U.S. That's a great point. You're exactly right there. It isn't insane when they're to them. This is perfectly reasonable, but you have to entertain the idea that there are people that really want to enslave us, and I think really that's what this, just from a 30,000 foot view, that's what this exercise is really about. Are we truly free in this country, or are we slaves? And that's not just with our elections. That's a huge part of it. But it's also with our justice system. It's also with the lack of accountability that we've seen. You've got James Clapper that went on MS Now over the weekend to criticize President Trump over the war in Iran, which, by the way, criticism of the war in Iran, I'm okay with criticizing the war in Iran. I'm okay with this whole discussion that's going on right now. I'm fine with it because I'm not for the war. But John Brennan should be in jail right now. He should be in jail and shouldn't be on MS Now trying to be a thorn in the side and trying to use his intel oligarch status that, for whatever reason, if you go on MS Now and you're an intel oligarch, oh, you're benign. You're just looking after the best interests of the country and our national security. But if you're Tulsi Gabbard, you have an agenda. That's not real intelligence. That's fake intelligence. And you're just like, okay. So the accountability feature here is very important. And I think when it's all said and done, and I wish Eric Haynes were here to reel me back in from this. But I mean, you get 2-3 years down the road, and James Comey and Clapper and Brennan and these guys are still walking free and still going and making this good money, being contributors on CNN or MS Now or whatever, and they're still walking around free. Folks, we're the ones in the jail. We're the ones that are not free. And actually, I think that'd be a great message to say. As long as they're free, we're not. Let me say that again. As long as Jim Comey and James Clapper, you could even argue Obama, who manufactured the intelligence report, and whoever else, Hillary Clinton, her campaign, go down the list. We could even get into the Epstein stuff. As long as those people are free after doing what we have evidence of them doing, which is essentially framing Donald Trump for treason, therefore making them they're the traitors. As long as they're free, we're not. As long as these guys are walking free, we really aren't free, because our vote doesn't matter, and the system is full of so many communists that it doesn't matter who we put in there. We don't actually get the accountability. Now, that is the conclusion that many people are going to come to if the accountability doesn't start happening. I'm encouraged by the grand jury in Florida. James Comey got subpoenaed the other day. Other people have been subpoenaed. But I go back to my friend Eric. It's not just about the indictments, not just about the perp walks. It's about convictions. And you think we got communists in the DOJ. You think we got a problem with Todd Blanche or Pam Bondi. You think we got a problem with those people. We got problems with judges. We have subversive judges. We have immoral and wicked judges. We have communist judges. And they look at somebody like James Comey and they think he is a Boy Scout. They think he is the standard of morality in the United States. And they're not going to convict him. They're not going to participate in a process that will lead to his conviction, as we've already seen specifically with Jim Comey. I don't mean to be a black pillar. If you got that I'm a black pillar, become a black pill bulimic with me. I often will do this. I will often black pill, and then I have to regurgitate my black pill. So if you ever feel like I'm black pilling, you need to just tell me, Paul, throw it up. It's time. I won't leave it in your stomach too long. All right, what else do we have? We have Machine saying, yes, we're free. We, the people, have the United States Constitution, and it's our duty that we make sure that we get out these rogue activist judges. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm 100% with you right there. We have the United States Constitution. And unfortunately for us, the United States Constitution hasn't really mattered in a long time. It matters in form and formality, but not really substance. I mean, it just is. It's just one of those things. It is what it is. We have subverted our Constitution with each passing decade, and each the judges that we want to get out of here, they're the judges that have reinterpreted the Constitution. They're the ones that have told us that, the First Amendment means that you can't pray in public schools. They're the ones that have told us that. Wasn't there? I mean, they're the ones that are allowing the Fourth Amendment to be trampled in the digital age. 10th Amendment, for the most part, is useless. All of these protections have gone by the wayside. I mean, my goodness, you can make an argument that the Constitution was started to be degraded when Congress was allowed to violate the non-delegation clause of Article 1, Section 1. Article 1, Section 1 that says all legislative powers herein granted, and then Congress passes laws ceding that to these agencies under the executive branch that are able, like the EPA, that are able to create rules. And if you break their rules that nobody in Congress voted on, you get fined or go to prison, which is a law. So our entire structure is so far gone from what it was originally intended to be already, and it only matters when the people want it to. It only matters for talking points. I'm blackpilling again, but that is functionally. That's what that social contract means now. It is a soundbite. The Constitution is a soundbite. And I say that because I was in talk radio for 10 years. I was in talk radio for 10 years, and I was doing what I'm doing now, but just on the radio for 10 years. And I love talk radio, and I still genuinely like talk radio. I think I think in a lot of ways it's a captured medium now, where you hear a watered down version of what you can get elsewhere. But do you know what that was? It was all about the Constitution. The Constitution. I mean, this was a big talking point in talk radio. We forgot the Constitution. We forgot the Constitution. And you know what I realized? That it hasn't mattered in a long time, and and then when Donald Trump came on the scene, I realized that, a lot of people don't even really care about this language. I mean, they like the Constitution, but in terms of, if you think about it, Donald Trump obliterated the people that were talking about the Constitution. Ted Cruz, the Constitution. Rand Paul, the Constitution. I get them. Those candidates nobody cared about. Right? I mean, we did. I mean, people did care about them, but they were the minority. Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump come on the scene in 2016 talking about how we've got these gross, unconstitutional errors and we've got to get back to the Constitution? No. What did he say? He said the border's insecure and people are coming across raping our citizens, and it's unacceptable. And people said, you know what, he's right, and this has been a problem for a long time. Shout out to the late Lou Dobbs, who beat this drum before anybody did. The border, the border, the border. And Donald Trump ran away with it because he focused on the one issue that the Koch brothers would never focus on. The Koch brothers, of course, I'm talking about Americans for Prosperity, and that in the whole Tea Party thing. I remember going to, and I liked AFP. I liked Americans for Prosperity. They had these state organizations, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you they never did anything good, but I do remember, it was strictly economics. It was strictly a Koch brothers funded thing, and they didn't see the border being open as a bad thing for their business. And I remember going to events, and you'd have people from the crowd. What about illegal immigration? It's like, yeah, thanks for coming. Totally ignored. That was one of my first red flags, which was, they don't want to talk about the open border. And I guess by extension, I didn't either. And I was amazed when Donald Trump won in the primary in 2016. That was an eye-opening thing, and I was it was also arrogant when he did win, because I just did not understand the populist phenomenon that was taking place in front of me. I did not get it. Certainly, I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 over Hillary. And anyway, just something to think about. Sorry, yeah, we're free, but we have the Constitution. So I rambled off of that one comment, and I haven't looked at any other. I haven't looked at any other comments from the LFA audience, so I apologize. But somebody says. Let's see. Go Away writes, you might consider ordering The Architecture of Jihad by Ani Cyrus. Well, do I have news for you? She will actually be on my program. She'll be on the show on Friday. We're going to be interviewing Ani on Friday. She grew up in Iran. She lived in Iran until she was 15 years old, and so she got this new book out. And I heard that she actually grew up in Iran, and I thought, what a better time to interview somebody. We're in a war with Iran. Like, let's actually talk to somebody who lived there for 15 years of their life, of their young life. So it'll be really interesting to get her perspective on things and how things are. How things were over there, and maybe she knows people over there. I'm not really sure, but maybe she still has family over there. But we're going to ask all those questions of Ani when she's on the program on Friday. So you certainly don't want to miss that. So let's go over now to this story. Okay. So just so you guys know, Mark Wayne Mullen. We can confirm to you that the Senate has confirmed the new DHS Secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen, as the Democrats continue a funding blockade. That headline from the Liberty Daily. Likewise, the Oklahoma governor has decided to make a replacement for Mark Wayne Mullen. Obviously, that's his prerogative when something like this happens. So meet the next senator from the state of Alabama. I'm sorry, the state of Oklahoma. His name is Alan Armstrong. That's what he looks like. So get used to seeing this guy. This is Alan Armstrong, governor of Oklahoma, has now appointed him to serve out the remainder of Mark Wayne Mullen's term. And he is an energy industry executive. So obviously Oklahoma's got some oil. They got energy. This guy's in the corporate world. Now he's going to be going over to the government world. And now I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob,
Paul,
I'm glad you were able to make it, sir.
Listen, it's so great to be here. But I'll say there's a little bit of torture. It's a little bit of torture to, it's a little bit of torture to watch you on the drive in.
Why?
Because I'm like, sorry. I'm like, yeah, that's what it would be like. I'll slap that microphone right now. I want to say something. Right now, and so that was difficult.
But you're not able to. You're
not.
you're a
I just have to
captive audience.
And I try to comment something, in the post there, but obviously I got to be safe. I got to hit the talk to text thing because I'm not going to text and drive, but I'll do the talk to text thing there so that it anyway. You get the point.
Well, hey, I just want to say I appreciate, because I know you got turned around, you had to you backtrack, go to work, but I appreciate you coming back and spending the last hour with us, because I know you didn't have to do that, but it's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'll just say a couple of things. When you were talking about how the Constitution hasn't mattered in a long time, when you brought up something, it reminded me of is it the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms? What is it? The ATF?
ATF, yeah, and explosives, but they don't put an E on it.
Yeah, they don't put that one on there. So what do? Right? These are the guys that will show up to your door. Right, you've got to, here in the state of Arkansas, we are an open carry state. You don't have to, you can conceal carry it as well. Like, you don't even have to have a license for it anymore. Excuse me, but they'll show up to your door and they'll say, hey, we noticed that you bought, 5 rifles or whatever, and we need to make sure that it's not a straw purchase, right? And so, can you show us that you still have these rifles? Well, that's just an internal rule that they have. That's an internal, quote, law that they have. And you're looking at that and you're saying, well, did Congress vote on this? Because this is a severe restriction. Like, what probable cause do you have to come up here and ask me just because, am I allowed to purchase more than one firearm? I passed the background check. Am I allowed to purchase this stuff? And so that's when you're so spot on when you were talking about how the Constitution hasn't necessarily mattered, because this whole guilty until proven innocent bull is exactly that. It's bullspit, because what we know is, and I watched a video about a gentleman who was completely stone cold sober. He got pulled over, and the police officer said, well, based off of your speech patterns, okay? Your speech patterns. And this guy was like, you don't know me. This is how I talk.
Yep.
Right? Like, this is how I talk, dude. And I respect police officers. I got a thin blue line American flag sticker on the back of my truck. So I'm not trying to rip on police officers, but what this police officer did was he goes, hey, I need you to submit to field sobriety tests. And he said, no, I'm not doing that. He goes, I'm not drunk. I will take a breathalyzer test to prove to you that I've not had anything to drink. But I'm not going to take your test here because you don't have any probable cause to be able to make me submit to this test. Okay, and I know I'm going a long way to make my point here, but here's what ended up happening. They put him in the car, took him to the police station. And he was pissed off at the driver, the police officer, because you could, like, all this was coming from his body cam. And he was saying, he said, all this could have been avoided if you would have just submitted to the test. And the guy was like, but you had no reason to do this test. You didn't smell alcohol because that's impossible. You didn't smell anything. I wasn't swerving. You're saying that my speech pattern it was an indicator for you. And since I didn't want to submit to your test, you have now hauled me in and you have impounded my car. And they did. They impounded his car. He goes in and he blows the breathalyzer. Paul, do you know what the breathalyzer was?
Can it be negative? Is it possible to be negative?
I don't know, but it was as close to negative as you can be, and it's called 0.00. Okay? And he spent 3 hours at the police station. He was not arrested for DUI. He was released, especially after he blew zeros, because the police officer realized that he was wrong. And he's like, man, I don't know why you made this so complicated. Why didn't you just submit to these tests? And it's like, man, and the guy was so eloquent with it. He just said, I could have done that. But what it would have been was me willingly submitting my rights to you. And you had no reason to do what you did. I would not give up my constitutional rights so easily just because you're telling me to submit. So going back to my original point and dovetailing off of your original point, does the Constitution matter anymore? Because what we have is a police state in a lot of instances, right? And what we have is, you know what, I don't like what you're doing here. I don't like what you're saying here. And so I have been critical of Trump, of wanting to shut down ABC and all of this stuff for, quote, false information. I'm not about that, man. I'm not about that. Are you threatening violence? Yes. Okay. Then that's not freedom of speech. Are you a felon trying to purchase a gun? Well, no. That's against the law. But all of these internal restrictions of stuff that are being implemented, I am never going to be in favor of it, because if we submit to that, then we're not free.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was I would say that, because I think a lot of our mainstream media, specifically our mainstream media, for a long time have actually been intelligence operatives. I would go at it from that way, but you would have to actually charge people and prove it in court in order for that to happen. But to your point, you started your monologue there about the ATF.
Yeah.
Now, I would add that we don't have rights because we are very much a police state in some of those instances that are raising, or that are.
Oh, I forgot about this case.
That are rising. But we also don't have accountability for the top. When they do, there's no accountability. Whether you're James Comey or whether you're the ATF that went into Little Rock, Arkansas years ago at this point, and just, I'm going to say this, straight up murdered a guy.
They murdered him.
They straight up murdered this guy for the same reason. The same type of reason, I believe. We saw you bought 5 rifles. We have to inspect them.
Yep.
Well, legally, no, but they've created a rule, and it's the law now, without Congress voting on it. Brian Keith Malinowski excelled at business deals and brought millions of dollars in upgrades to Little Rock's Clinton National Airport. We should rename that airport, by the way. It's insane that Little Rock is still named after the Clintons. ATF agent Tyler Cowart shot Malinowski in the head last year. He died 2 days later. Malinowski was 53 years old. His widow recently filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the ATF and his agents. Yeah. The suit is damning, almost beyond belief. None of the Justice Department officials involved were willing to discuss it. Assistant U.S. Attorney Lindsay Mitchum Lawrence, who is defending the ATF in the lawsuit, was unwilling to talk. She referred questions to the boss, somebody named Jonathan D. Ross. This is what you get. You just get the runaround. But basically, so Brian Malinowski was a lifelong collector. As a child, he started collecting coins, a hobby he carried into his adulthood. Several years ago, his father handed down his gun collection, which sparked Brian's interest in firearms. He became a gun collector and a hobbyist. In March of 2024, federal regulations did not require an individual seller to hold a federal firearms license as a dealer in firearms unless the individual's principal objective in selling firearms was livelihood and profit. At the time of his death, Brian Malinowski was the highest paid city employee in the city of Little Rock, and is the executive director of the Little Rock Airport, where he earned an annual salary of more than $260,000. Brian did not believe that by selling at gun shows, he was engaging in conduct with the principal objective of livelihood and profit, and therefore did not believe he needed an FFL to sell firearms at gun shows. In December of 2023, the ATF opened an investigation and began following Brian to and from work, and on weekends placing a tracker on his car and surveilling his daily activities. During the investigation, at least 2 agents acting undercover interacted with Brian at a gun show in Arkansas. Brian answered one of the undercover agents' inquiries by noting that he was a private seller, meaning he believed he did not need an FFL. During their investigation, ATF learned a lot about Brian. They knew he worked in a secure environment at the airport where guns were not allowed. They knew he had lived a law-abiding life with no criminal history, that he lived at home with his wife and 2 dogs, and that they kept a very regular schedule. Brian had no reason to believe that he was under investigation for violating the law. Brian never received a letter of inquiry, audit, personal visit, or request for information from the ATF, nor did he ever receive a target or subject letter from the Department of Justice notifying him that he was under investigation. So on March 6th of 2024, ATF Special Agent Troy Dillard obtained 2 federal search warrants, which authorized federal agents to search the Malinowski home and Brian's vehicle for firearms, ammunition, electronics, sales records, and correspondence. Importantly, it was not an arrest warrant, nor did it set forth any facts that would lead any person to believe Mr. Malinowski would evade law enforcement, fail to cooperate, be dangerous, or pose a threat or risk of destroying evidence.
Yeah.
On April 11th, 2024, less than a month after the ATF raid that killed Brian, the ATF announced a new rule to close the gun show loophole and expand the definition of what it meant to be engaged in a business of selling firearms. So this doesn't there's plenty of other descriptions, but they show up to his house. The guy doesn't know he's under investigation.
Yeah.
And guess what happens when when your door gets broken, down? In the early morning hours,
no-knock warrants.
You know what you do? I mean, I live in fear of it. Actually, I live in fear of somebody trying to. I mean, I don't live in constant fear, but it's crossed my mind. Like you look at James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe was probably expecting it because he was the target of the Biden administration and everything else.
I'm sure he knows he walks around with a target on his back.
But like your average, like somebody busts into your house, is it the feds? Or is it an actual intruder? If it's an actual intruder, he's going down. Mm-hmm. If it's the feds, well, now you're in a firefight with the feds, and they're ready for you, and you're dead. You're dead, just like Brian Malinowski. So, to your point, to my point, to our point, Constitution hasn't mattered in a real long time.
It's really frustrating, and I believe that there was a Supreme Court case. I know that there was, and you may be able to look it up while we're on here. But there was a Supreme Court case that overruled these government agencies like the ATF and FDA and all of that stuff from being able to implement criminal.
Chevron.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, it was Chevron, and so this stuff shouldn't be happening. But how many videos have we seen since then where I understand the mentality of and I'm not just trying to focus on the ATF here, but that's one that I get a lot because I'm a fierce defendant of the Second Amendment. And the ATF they're trying to prevent straw purchases. Okay, so think about it from this perspective. What is a straw purchase in a firearms case? And that is simply someone who is buying a firearm for someone else to get around the background check portion of it. And so it's like, hey, Paul, you and I both own firearms. We're allowed to do, like, if you wanted to sell me your handgun, I could sell you my handgun. Heck, we don't even have to do a sale. We could just trade. We could just trade our handguns.
Yeah.
Right. But if you are not legally allowed to, for some reason, whether it be conviction or if there's some restriction on you where you are not allowed to own a firearm, I cannot buy one and then privately sell it to you with knowing with complete knowledge that that's what the issue was for, or that was the intent. And so I get it. It's one of those I understand what they're trying to do. Like, hey, you're trying to get around this background check. But I want you to think about it from this perspective, Paul. If I am in my 40s, you're in your 40s. If a 20-year-old approached me and said, hey, buddy, as like if I was leaving a liquor store or something. Hey, man, would you buy us? We're trying to score. We're college sophomores here. We're trying to score a 12-pack. Or we're trying to score a fifth of vodka. Can you help us out? And it's $10. We'll give you this $20. You keep the change, right? I would not do it. I would not do it as a business owner. I do not need that kind of flag. But honestly,
that's contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Because if I did it, then I would be breaking a law, right? contributing to the delinquency of a minor. What the ATF is doing by going and knocking and saying, hey, can you prove to us that you still have all of these guns? That's, going back to my example, it's like a police officer coming up to me, walking outside of a liquor store and saying, hey, there's some 20-year-olds over here. I need you to prove to me that you're not about to buy them alcohol. Think about it through that lens,
That's
folks.
a really good analogy.
ATF is asking to see if you might commit some sort of crime here to get around it with this straw purchase. And that's just one example, folks. We're seeing this BS with all of our government agencies, which is why us conservatives were so hopeful that we might be just draining that swamp just a little bit.
And what about, like, seriously, what about the AI component of all this with pre-crime and the idea of AI is going to start predicting who's going to commit what crime when? You know, everybody saw that movie Minority Report back in the day, and we thought it was total science fiction. You know, with Tom Cruise. You ever see that movie, Minority Report?
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I did.
Where
Maybe I did.
They got the psychic girls in the vat of goo who are able to predict a crime before it happens.
Oh, yeah. And then you get arrested, and you're like, no, I wasn't about to do that.
You didn't actually do it.
Yeah, no, I'm a time cop.
But,
you know.
but you get put in jail anyway. And I just think to myself, like, I saw this really funny I saw this really funny meme about AI in general. It's like, okay, what if AI takes over doctors and surgeons? And so you wake up and it's just like, you know, AI makes mistakes sometimes. So you wake up and you're like, AI doctor, like, my appendix is on my right side, but the scar's on my left. I thought, and then AI's like, sorry about that. I'll make it better next time. You know, and you're like, whoa, what's
a little
going
too
on?
late, brother.
Same thing with this, same thing with AI going to predict, predict which crime you're going to commit, which is going to be, I really think that's one of their goals here.
I just wanted to say that as I was driving in and I was listening to it, I just said, this should not be an issue. It should have never been an issue because it just really got out of hand with the Chevron case. But when this was overturned by our Supreme Court, this should have gone away. And I don't think that I don't see or hear about it as much, but folks, this is the exact reason that that the government was able to seize the weapons, the firearms of January 6thers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I would think our good buddy Derek Evans would have a lot to say about this particular thing, like the government overreach, and we can't have it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I was looking at these comments here, and they just go too fast, and I can't ever. We get somebody, Machine, X Machine, gave us $2, gave LFA $2.
Thank you.
So that's really nice. We appreciate that. Somebody was correcting us to let us know what they're called. Somebody said it. They're called precogs in the movie, not psychics. Precogs in
precogs. Okay,
but,
that's in Minority Report.
But now I can't find where the person. It's like sometimes these comments disappear. I feel like, but
I don't know.
Anyway, let's get to an update on the war, shall we? Here is. This. So yesterday.
Oh, hey, Paul, real quickly before I know that I went on my ATF rant when you were talking about Markwayne Mullen's replacement in Oklahoma. I did want to say one thing about that one, and that is it's interesting that Oklahoma put sort of an energy guy. I mean, I understand it, but I wonder how that's going to play with the pressure, that to get these oil prices down, to get these gasoline prices down, get these gas prices down. I wonder how that's going to play into it. Now, I can't imagine that Markwayne Mullen wasn't an advocate for what's important to Oklahoma. There's a lot of oil rigs in Oklahoma, but that's interesting that the governor there, which is a solid red state, it's actually, I think statistically it might be the most red state. Is it not? or it's very
Very
close.
close.
If,
Especially if you go look back at the election history.
Yeah, I don't know if we've got anybody in our comments on any of the streaming platforms that would just let us know if Oklahoma is the most conservative state. But it was just interesting to me that he put an energy CEO. He basically wasn't hiding it. It's like, boom, here we go. Let's put this guy in place. And so, in that note, I'm really happy that Mark Wayne Mullen was appointed. I think a lot of folks were ready to move on from Kristi Noem, and maybe we're just looking at some of the numbers that are coming out. I saw a thing today just about the total cost of her renting horses for these commercials and such. And so that
Interesting.
Yeah, because if you're renting horses to the government, and let's say if I was going to go rent this horse and it's going to be $100 a day, what's it going to be to the government? Mm-hmm. It's going to be $1,000 a day,
Like the old toilet seat.
right? It's the $900 hammers, that kind of happens there. So I think Mark Wayne Mullen is going to be a breath of fresh air, especially for us staunch conservatives who really want to see a good, positive change here.
Well, one person who didn't vote for Mark Wayne Mullen, I think he got 55 yes votes for confirmation.
Is there a good buddy, Rand?
Believe it or not, Rand Paul did not vote for Mark Wayne Mullen.
I can't believe
Can
it.
you believe it? After all of that, I'm shocked, I tell you. Shocked that Rand Paul...
Oh, Rand.
He said, no, I'm not going to vote for him. But he did get 55 votes. So I think Fetterman must have voted for him. And
Yeah, Fetterman, and there was one other person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Currently, the price of oil is at $88.77. So that is down. Go ahead. Feel free to shout out your gas prices. What was the price at the pump today? If you got to take a look, if you noticed it. We'd love to read those out on the air if you guys are in the chat. Also, we have this. Yesterday, of course, we covered that Donald Trump said, hey, we may have peace with Iran. He said, I'm going to give it 5 days. Then Iran came out and said, no one's talking. But this morning, CNN reported actually this, quote, an Iranian source told CNN there has been outreach between the United States and Iran, and that Tehran is willing to listen to suitable proposals to end the war. Now, this is a very big deal, very big step. Earlier this afternoon, Trump said this on Iran, that we've won the war. He says, I think we're going to end it, but I can't tell you for sure. Here is part of President Trump's remarks earlier today.
What was the turning point to make you want to pursue a ceasefire? A few days ago, you said you wanted to continue bombing Iran. Now you want to pursue peace talks. Was there something that happened?
The fact that they're talking to us and they're talking sense. And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
How do you ensure they won't have?
Yeah, they've agreed to that 50 million times, though. I'm not trying to demean this accomplishment. If they're agreeing to it now, which we'll kick the can. We should kick the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
golly, 580 a gallon in Central.
Go ahead and read. What are we talking here?
580 a gallon in Central California. No Wimps one. Don't know how you. Oh my gosh, that's gotta hurt, man. It's gotta feel like you're being bent over the desk when you're, going to the gas.
Dude, I'm upset. I'm upset with just whatever I'm, $3.12 or whatever I paid the other day.
We're low $3, but
frustrating though.
Yeah, the reason that we're, again in the state of Arkansas, you can have a two-person household making, $100,000, $120,000 a year and live pretty comfortably in Arkansas, or at least in Northeast Arkansas. But $120,000 in certain places in the United States would just mean that you're living below the poverty line, and that's kind of sad. But anyway,
so while that's going on, right? So we
over
have
the hood. That's right, Bad Moon.
While we have this, what I would consider positive news in the war, last night, as these peace talks were developing, or we were hearing news about more peace, really all day yesterday, a Texas oil refinery explosion sent smoke into the air. Residents advised to shelter in place. This was a Valero refinery, and a lot of people started, asking questions. Was this? Now they say it was just a heater. According to this Fox News story, they think, well, it was a malfunctioning heater of some kind. But people are wondering if this was not some sort of foreign attack or sleeper cell attack on our infrastructure, which has happened before.
Who knows?
Surrounding this issue, right? So it's just something to think about. I mean, my goodness, even Tim Pool, he came out and said it's just a coincidence that in 2019, the same day the U.S. oil refinery exploded, Trump called off strikes in Iran, and in 2026, the same day Trump announced postponing strikes on Iran, an oil refinery exploded. Of course, people immediately, or some called him a conspiracy theorist, but people are noticing patterns, and I think generally people want cheap gas and they don't want war. How about that? And
That's true. Well, and I think that there's been multiple times here where Trump has said something, and then we get news that Israel has done something.
Launched another attack, which happened yesterday.
Yeah, it happened yesterday. It also happened in the conflict, I guess you want to call it a war, over Gaza and all of this after October 7th, right? Of 2024. But anyway, I think what that does is it just does it undermine Trump in your mind? I don't know. But what do you think when he announces something and then you get word that Israel has done something else after the fact?
It shows you that we have, at a bare minimum, two different command structures, right? You know what I mean? You have a country that we give weapons and money to, that is going to continue, that has autonomy.
Well, and we already know
that just is what it is.
I mean, and Trump has probably the most, where he got the most frustrated in Trump 2.0, where he's, it's this gaggle outside as he's about to get on the chopper.
I remember that.
Right, and it's, and he's like, because they don't know what the F they're doing.
He was talking about both Israel and Iran.
He was mad at Israel and Iran here, or Hamas. I mean, whoever, like we all know.
Was it Hamas? I can't remember.
It was.
Yeah, I think it was. It was trying to get the killing in Gaza to stop.
Hamas does nothing by itself.
Right,
it's
I know,
funny,
but the Iran the Iran thing wasn't quite on the table yet, as a current thing. I think it was. It was
Gaza, indirect.
It was a Gaza thing.
Yeah, it was indirect. It wasn't a direct. And so we're seeing that, and it just, I don't know, it just further highlights, in my opinion, that I believe that Trump has more respect certainly than Joe Biden. No world leader respected Joe Biden. If you're saying that with a straight face as a Democrat, then you are so full of trash. You are so full, like the crap that's coming out of your mouth. You need a toilet hanging around your neck to catch all of the crap that is coming out of your mouth. If you think that the world respected the United States when Joe Biden was going and giving these speeches, now the world may disagree with Donald Trump. You may hate Donald Trump if you are the world. NATO can't stand Donald Trump. We know this, right? But when he goes and gives a speech, if he says he's going to do something, it carries weight. Why? Because they respect him to know that he is not lying.
Yeah,
they respect him enough to know that he is not just bull spitting, that he's actually going to do what he says. And so that carries a lot of weight. And I think also, when Trump says something and implores Israel to do this and implores Iran to do this, I think he gets really pissed off as the businessman that when they don't do that stuff. Yeah, so, and we're seeing all of that. But anyway.
No doubt. All right, so I'm going to skip over that last story that was just there. We are going to cover it, Rob, just so you know. But while we're on this topic, I don't want to have to come back to this topic.
Okay.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this topic. But it grew legs today because of Joe Kent and Schellenberger and what he reported. First off, Mark Levin, the talk radio host, who is very much pro-war and has been pro-war for a very long time. A couple of days ago, or I guess last week, when Joe Kent resigned and made everybody either happy or mad, or maybe some people were just kind of, in between. Whatever your opinion of it is, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Lord is in control. Mark Levin, very upset with Joe Kent, offered, come on my show, you big dope.
Do it.
Come on my show, you big dope.
Come on. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah,
you got a great
thank you,
Mark
Mr.
Levin.
Producer. Yeah.
And then he went down there.
Yeah.
And he went. I don't have anything to say, but I feel like the voice.
No.
I think we both have the voice
yeah.
down. You know, with Mark Levin.
So you got Mark Levin decides, hey, Joe Kent, come on my show. You probably don't have the stones to come on my show. Anyway, Joe Kent says sure, and then there was a little controversy because Joe Kent didn't respond quick enough to anyway. But they did the interview yesterday. Matter of fact, it was on the air when I was driving home, and so there's a few clips of it. But one of the more interesting ones is the back and forth between Mark Levin, Joe Kent on the subject of Charlie Kirk. Okay? So we have that audio for you, and I want you to listen to it here.
You told Carlson about the murder of our friend Charlie Kirk. It's a data point that we need to look into. What are you trying to look into there? What do you think happened there?
What I know is that there were foreign leads that we didn't get a chance to look into, that we did not thoroughly investigate. That's what I know.
Do you have any country in mind?
No, I think we need to fully investigate the potential of any foreign nexus.
So you think a foreign country may have been involved in his assassination. Does the FBI think that?
What I think is that we need to thoroughly investigate all the potentials. That's what needs to happen.
I know, but what I'm trying to find out, you're a smart guy. You're an accomplished guy. Is there something that piqued your interest that caused you to say, maybe there's something foreign and we need to look into this? I mean...
There is. I just can't get into it because it's classified and it's part of an ongoing investigation, I hope. But from my vantage point and from what I saw at the National Counterterrorism Center, that was not thoroughly looked into.
I'm not trying to be rude. Just slow down. I'm a little hard of hearing. Go ahead. What was that? I didn't hear you.
What I said was there were still potential foreign links and leads that we needed to look into. That's what I know. That's what I'm asserting.
So you're not asserting any particular country there?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
Your first reaction.
All right. I want to say I did not sleep well. I had a lot of nightmares. Bad moon. Sorry about the yawn there. It was not related to Paul. I was having nightmares last night for some weird reason. I was telling my wife. I don't know what's up with that.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, just but weird
and
stuff.
The sound of Mark Levin's voice made you think of your nightmare.
It did. It's gonna be a nightmare for me. I can't handle it. But. Okay, so I'm hearing this fresh for the first time, but I've not seen this.
In all seriousness, before you get into that, I do want to say this. I'm not in particular a fan of Mark Levin, but used to be a long time ago, back in my talk radio libertarian days. I liked him. But I will say there was something I thought really good about this interview that it happened. And so
I agree with that.
So credit. It felt good, and it's, of course, everything gets all screwed up again. But what felt good about this interview is that you have two people who had the respect. Mark Levin, give him credit. He had Joe Kent on, a guy that he clearly disagrees with on a lot of stuff, and they had a conversation. They debated. Joe Kent gave his side. Mark Levin now has, the rest of his career to give his side for 3 hours a day on however many stations he's on across the country. And there was something that felt good about how we're not trying to just...
We called him out. Yeah,
we're not trying to
demonize...
the call. Yeah, we're not trying to, this demonization that we can so easily... That we are doing. I mean, right now the right loves to demonize each other. If you disagree on this thing, in a lot of ways, it's like... It's very religious and dogma. I don't like it. I don't like that. If you disagree on this or that, then, well, you're a phony influencer, you're just trying to get the clicks or whatever. And I'm not saying there aren't people out there like that, but this interview, I think, is the answer. The solution is more debate. Let people make up let people make up their minds without somebody saying, "Don't ever listen to this person again. They're crazy." Like, I think more conversation is better. So,
well, I will say that to an extent, right? Because what we're seeing right now, and you and I were texting about this, or we were talking. I can't remember if we were talking on the phone or we were texting it, but basically what we were talking about was the faction, the fracture point that is right now on the conservative side, and we always have because we're not monolithic, right? There's that word again, but we're not a monolith. We do have varying opinions, right? We have people who are just on the right, and then we've got the far right, and then we've got just everything in between. But anyway, and most libertarians are on our side with most things. They just want the government to be left alone.
And a lot of libertarians still want women to be able to kill their babies.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so all of that stuff because but right now what we're seeing is that there's this great divide, right? And it's the Tucker versus Ben.
Yep, that's
right. And it's the Megyn Kelly versus Ben Shapiro right now too. And they're going at each other online. But we saw this Megyn versus Mark Levin online. That one was a recent where they're going at, I'm going to tell you something right now. They're going at each other big time. Now, I think that they need to go on each other's show, Mark Levin and Megyn Kelly, because I respect them both. I think Levin is a little crazy on some stuff. I find myself, I'm not a moderate by any stretch of the matter, but there are some things where I am closer to the center on than a lot of conservatives, and certainly than you are, Paul. So I align a lot with what Megyn Kelly says. Megyn Kelly is absolutely anti-Iranian conflict here. She's war, conflict, whatever you want to call it. She's anti that. I don't know that I am, because I'm sitting here saying that I'm gonna give it the credibility and the credence to at least say that the commander-in-chief of the United States, the most powerful man in the entire world, if
on paper,
unless we can go down the dark hole of the deep state and who actually controls the country, but the most powerful man, meaning a stroke of his pen, he can actually do some stuff. Right, he can have an impact. Right, hell, his Truth Social posts will completely affect the stock market. Right, of the biggest economy in the world.
We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, and so we've got all of that. But the most powerful man in the world. Let's go with at least this sort of concession. He knows more than what we know about it.
Yes,
he has more intel than we have.
Yes.
About it. And I haven't heard Megyn say that. I haven't heard Megyn Kelly, because Megyn Kelly even came out and said today or yesterday, and this is what I sent you, that she believes that J.D. Vance, our vice president, disagrees with Trump on the Iranian intervention. And to me, that's a bridge too far, because J.D. Vance has been such a staunch defender of President Trump in each and every way. But she believes that because he is such an American first, former military, all of this, that he is secretly on her side and secretly against Trump. She's not coming out and saying it like that. And if she were sitting here, she would vehemently disagree with me and articulate it extremely well. But that's what she was saying. That's really what she was saying. And so for me to say one of the strongest conservative voices in Megyn Kelly on our side, who's an independent journalist, setting the tone for us. I mean, we would love it if the Paul Harrell program were to grow into that, right? Because it's just, she has such a huge reach. Her YouTube shows, every show that she posts on YouTube gets more views than any CNN, any Fox News, any MS Now, any show like that. That's how popular her reach is. But if she is sitting there saying that Donald Trump, our president, and J.D. Vance, who is, from my opinion, the most popular, I don't know that I've ever heard of a vice president as popular with the conservative wing as J.D. Vance is, right? I mean, what we got? We got Dick Cheney,
normally, vice presidents, they get in the Dan Quayle zone where you're considered to be an idiot or a moron.
Right. Nobody really focused on George W. Bush until he was running and leading up to 88.
And then and then you look at like even Obama. Like nobody thought Joe Biden had it together. Even Joe Biden was kind of he's Joe Biden. Yeah. Even though he was much more mentally there. But the vice president is kind of always like a throwaway. Yeah. That's not the case with J.D. Vance.
My problem is that we get into this mentality of, okay, Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro disagree with each other. Okay, Ben Shapiro is a Jew, and his Jewish heritage, religion, all of that stuff guides 99% of what he does it not?
With foreign policy, I would say.
I would say so, because he believes that the United States should protect and be aligned with Israel on everything. I've never heard him say a single solitary negative thing about the nation of Israel. Okay? The only thing he says negative is that we should be more supportive of them. Anyway, and then we've got Tucker Carlson. Tucker says some crazy things, got a crazy laugh, all of that stuff. But don't sit here and say, yeah, there you go. But don't sit here and say that Tucker's not a conservative. This whole Iranian thing has made me at least question some of that stuff, because I'm like, man, are you? Because a lot of people are saying that you're kind of on the Iranian side with this, because you've been going over there and you've been spending some time in the Middle East. Like, it's making me question it. But I'm not going to forget all of your years of being a staunch conservative, right?
Yes,
leading up to it.
I will just want to add to that. I mean, who was the only guy on Fox that was willing to say, no, Russia did not blow up their own pipeline? Okay.
Correct.
Who was the only guy on Fox who was willing to call out Big Pharma right before he was fired and talk about the financial incentive that news media has to not report on if the shot is hurting people?
Right.
That was Tucker Carlson. And you can go on and on. And today...
Election.
And election, too.
Yeah,
he actually,
election stuff.
He
got fired from Fox over the election
stuff.
Yes.
And so you're exactly right. But today on X... Mm-hmm. He did a podcast with somebody where he talked about how Muslim countries are proud to be Muslim countries, and they seem to be doing quite well. And he says they're governed by Sharia law. Isn't that something?
I can't go that route.
Well, he's just talking about infrastructure-wise.
Yeah.
And he said, and he gets, and you could disagree with that. You can disagree with his point. But instead, this rapid report or whatever it is, hang on a second, let me find it, because I think I might have even pulled it up. Because I was just like, if you want to criticize somebody, that is totally fine. Yeah, here it is right here. But make sure that you get the quote right. There is this is the quote here. Quote, there's not a single Western city that's thriving. Quote, Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West. He did not say that. In this 5-minute clip, he didn't say it. And even Vigil at Fox says you never even bothered to listen to the insane clip that you're telling everyone to watch. It's a fake Tucker quote, and it's a rage bait. Tucker never said Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West. So I bring this up because it's been going viral for the last 24 hours, and I think to myself, this is a red flag. Like, if you want me to honestly evaluate where Tucker may differ here or where Tucker may be wrong, putting a clip out there where and then quoting him as saying something that he did not say
Sure.
is one way to make me go, oh, okay, well, he must be over the target then, because if people on our side
Yeah.
are going to actively lie about him, well, if you want to criticize somebody, just criticize them, but
Sure.
but be accurate. Like
Well-
that's what we're supposed to be. That's what the left does, right?
Yeah.
The left does where they just make up a quote that somebody, like the Very Fine People host
On both sides.
I mean,
we're,
come on.
Yeah, we're
Come on,
forgetting
man.
that. But I agree with you, Paul. And I want to ask, and I'll say this, all of it, the people in our comments that are just, piling on Tucker, I'll say this. Who ended Mike Pence's 2024 presidential campaign?
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson. Who ended, of course, it never really started,
Right.
our good friend here in Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson.
That would be Tucker.
That would be Tucker Carlson, who got fired, as we just said a few minutes ago, from Fox for saying all of the stuff that we know is true, that we do not need to be involved in this Ukraine Russian war. Yep. We do not need to have these voting machines that are absolutely hackable, and we know this. We do not need to be keeping our children out of school. He was the most prominent voice on the most prominent conservative cable news channel, right? I understand that Fox News is propaganda for the right, and in a lot of respects, it's just corporate BS. But I agreed with Tucker. I watched Tucker. He was my favorite on Fox. And when he went independent, I really loved. Now, do I agree with everything that he says? I think I disagree with him on the Iranian thing. I think I disagree with his any sort of positive comments that he's had about the Muslim community, because where the majority of the Muslim community and faith might be peaceful and loving, until this huge faction. And it could be as much as 10%. I mean, there was a poll. I'm remembering it here, but it was just like, do you believe in Sharia law and all of this stuff? And there was I do not remember.
Yeah, you mean
what it was, but it was
radical Islam is a threat. Islam, it's a giant. There's a giant number of people. Percentage might be low, but the number is still gargantuan.
When you look
people,
at the actual number,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right,
exactly.
and it's millions and millions and millions and millions of them who would blow up all of us in the comments, that literally believe that we are the devil, we are the enemy. So I don't like Tucker aligning with them on any standpoint. But am I going to sit here and say Tucker is evil? Tucker is this, Tucker is that? No, I'm not going to do that. And am I going to do that same thing? I disagree with Megyn Kelly. I disagree with her, and that's a very rare statement for me to say, because she is a conservative. Whether we disagree with her, I think she is a more centerish conservative. Am I getting slammed in the comments here?
No. Just people talking about people making accusations.
I might be getting murdered in the comments. I don't know, but I can just say this, guys. We as a conservative party cannot throw the left is absolutely loving that we are eating ourselves from the inside.
Yep.
They are loving it, because what does it do? I almost said the F word. What the hell are what are the Democrats doing right now?
Plotting our jail time.
Yeah.
They're literally plotting on how they're going to throw us, President Trump, all of Trump's officials in jail.
And what are they doing? They are talking about affordability. They are talking about that so that they can get in power and do all the bullshit that they're trying to do, Paul.
Yep.
You know that. And what are they talking about? They're talking about affordability, and they're griping. Hakeem Jeffries.
All right. Hold that thought.
I got something to say about him.
You've got to hold it, because I wanted to get to the news about. We started with the Joe Kent, Mark Levin clip. What this clip was showing, what Joe Kent said is he brought up the assassination of Charlie Kirk, okay? And he said this on Tucker, and he said this on Mark Levin. And again, I thought the Mark Levin, Joe Kent interview was healthy. I was really happy that it happened. He said, look, we had evidence, we had threads that needed to be pulled,
sure.
And Kent has said we were prevented from pulling them. So the reporter Michael Schellenberger did an interview with Joe Kent where he said, hey, man, now that you've gone public and you have resigned, and now that you have done, now that you've said that there may be more evidence out there of foreign nexus that could be, that hasn't been run down, we don't know for sure, the defense team of Tyler Robinson might call you to testify that they don't have all the evidence in the case. And Joe Kent allegedly says, hey, well, I mean, if that's what I have to, like, if I get called to testify, I mean, he can't, I mean, he says he would do it, you know, if he was called to testify.
Yeah.
And so now this has made people, especially the Turning Point folks, they're very, very upset with this. And I watched some of their stuff today, and they're very, very upset with this. But the reaction to me is interesting, because I don't quite. I get that Tyler Robinson is likely the guy. The question that we have had is, that I have had. Let me say this. The question that I've had from the beginning is that the narrative surrounding all of this doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson didn't do it, but there were clearly people that knew that this was going to happen beforehand. You had the furry thing, you had his trans boyfriend, you had other people. There are X posts online saying things like, you know, gonna be a bad day tomorrow at Utah Valley State, right? And the idea that he did all of this by himself is what I think is a reasonable question to ask. Also, the 30-06, right? Which I've heard different stories, you know, about the caliber of bullet. The point is I think there are legitimate questions. We don't talk about it on this program every day because there's a trial that's going to take place, and there's going to be evidence that's going to eventually be released, assuming they don't seal it, right? But now everybody's losing their minds over this.
I agree with what you're saying here, Paul. When I was listening to the interview that you played live for, you know, between Mark Levin and Joe Kent, you know what Joe Kent sounded like to me? He sounded like a complete politician who was trying to live in the gray. And I just don't think living in the gray anymore, especially when you have a high-profile resignation like he just had recently, I don't think living in the gray gives you credibility. I don't think that. Because what Joe Kent was alluding to was that there was some sort of foreign entity.
That hasn't been ruled out. He said it hasn't been ruled out.
Correct.
And that he was prevented.
Yes, and he wanted to investigate it more, okay? My point of that is, if you want to investigate that more, and you were prevented from doing so, there had to be some sort of match lit that said, we need to investigate this. What the hell was it? Now, maybe...
Well, allegedly it was... This is what's interesting. The from what I can tell, it's Andrew Clovet, the guy that subs in now for Charlie Kirk, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how you say his last name?
I don't know. I haven't watched. I have not watched.
I can't ever say it. Anyway, he now says he was the one that sent the text messages of Charlie Kirk. Like he's the one that
he was texting as Charlie.
No, he sent the thread. He sent the thread to Joe Kent. Joe Kent is the one that got some of Charlie's text messages, and allegedly that was one of the pieces of evidence that led Joe Kent to think, hey, we've got some stuff we need to run down.
We need to look at this further.
We need to look at this further. And so it's kind of ironic, actually, that now this is this potentially could be used as some sort of Brady rule violation, like we don't have all the evidence. I kind of think it's a much ado about nothing. Everyone is freaking out, or so many people that I like are freaking out. Let me say that. A lot of people that I like on X are got to take a side on this. And I'm like, man, guys, can we just pump the brakes and see how this works out? This is a tapestry. If you've got an opinion, let your opinion say what you think. But it is just like so many people trying to be at the top of the heap, and I'm like, I don't think people stop and think like, oh, you may be at the top of the heap, but I mean, you might be, what is it called, King Turd of Crap Mountain, when it's all said and done, because everybody's going to be dead.
Paul, do you believe that
not literally dead? Sorry.
Do you believe that Joe Kent had been, as the reports say, leading up for the last couple of months prior to his resignation, that he had been locked out of these intel briefings?
I probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I've heard those reports, but yeah, sure. I mean, the guy was already that may be the reason he resigned, is because he was locked out and he thought that Trump was only getting the information that certain people wanted him to have.
Could be.
Because I'm sorry. I mean, Marco Rubio and Mike Johnson said what they said. They tried to walk it back, but they said what they said.
Yeah.
They said what they said. And then the next day they came out and said, no, that's not what we said. But that is what they're all on tape saying it.
Yeah.
So
again, I'm just going back. I've just seen that little clip. I've not watched the whole interview with Mark Levin. But for me, my perspective, Joe Kent was living in gray when we need things to be black and white. We would love to know exactly if this dude, Tyler Robinson, was just a lone shooter, had nothing to do with Trump, and nothing to do with Charlie Kirk, other than he just completely disagreed with Charlie Kirk, then and Charlie Kirk's views on transgenderism, and he's got this boyfriend that he lives with and all of that stuff, right? If that's what it was, and simply put, that's the only motivation, then that's what we need to know. But we also need to know that if Charlie Kirk was making sort of a turn in his mentality of, maybe we shouldn't support Israel on everything, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, and he was losing Israeli donors. You remember that report that came out, lost $2 million a year.
And there are text messages,
confirming that that's not speculation that he did. So then, but our mind goes, my gosh, did somebody from Israel see Tyler Robinson in these chat rooms and
yeah,
I mean, is that the case?
It becomes a tangled web and very complicated, and also very complicated to prove at that point.
Right.
And, which, by the way, that's why we have talked, especially before we were picked up on LFA TV, just like everybody in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. We did talk about how the story didn't make sense. We didn't talk about any foreign connection, but we did just say, hey, look, 30-06, rifle not on the roof, rifle was on the roof, rifle in the woods. No, that didn't happen. Grainy video of him jumping down, no video of him in the prone position. 30-06, no exit wound. That's a very difficult thing.
Sure.
Right? I'm a deer hunter. I've killed a lot of deer. I shoot a 270, which is very similar to 30-06. Always have had an exit wound. Mm-hmm. I did talk to somebody who knows what bullets do to the human body. I did talk to somebody who would know, and I said, what are the odds? And he said slim. He said, but it is possible. It is possible for 30-06, depending on how it went in, what kind of bullet was used to hit the spine and not have an exit wound. He said it is possible, especially if it hits the spine and then turns down.
Yeah.
But it is not probable, right? So
not probable.
So, and again, with my own eyes, with my own experience, killing deer, there are questions that are reasonable to ask. Somebody might ask the question like, Dad, what do you think the murder of John F. Kennedy would be like if it was if it happened during the age of the internet? This.
Oh yeah, it would.
This is what would be happening.
The grassy knoll times 20.
And it didn't have to be this way, but there was a lack of information. There was there was also you want to forget the bullet. Forget the caliber of the bullet. Forget it. Forget all that. Forget all that. Let me just tell you the number one thing. The crime scene wasn't secure. and they paved over it a week later. Huge red flag. They paved over the crime scene. There should have been lasers. There should have. The fact that happened is the biggest red flag of this whole thing. And again,
yeah, Carl, Ben, you may be correct with that.
What did he say? What did he say?
I've heard it went down his body and came out his rear end.
Yeah. I said,
and I've had that happen with a deer, is what he says.
Yeah,
and I've heard of that as well.
Right, and that's what my source said. That again, just knows.
Yeah.
Knows via experience what bullets do, high caliber bullets do to the human body.
Sure.
It's rare, but it is possible. But it would be great to have the official report, but you can't. Yeah. Allegedly, you can't until you go to trial. So that's why I have just been like, I believe I have legitimate questions, but let's wait and see what the government of Utah actually presents and comes up with.
And there are some other great comments that talked about, like, did he go harder against anybody than he did against Islam and Muhammad, who married a 6-year-old?
You're talking about Charlie
Kirk.
Oh yeah.
Charlie Kirk went strong against, and there were people who were murdered for saying anything, for drawing an image of Muhammad. So can you imagine what they thought of Charlie Kirk supporting Israel and just downing their prophet, their saint, as Muhammad. And Charlie Kirk was going against it. He was like, look, Muhammad was a pedophile. Dude married a 6-year-old, consummated the marriage at 9 years old. Paul, I as me and you are both fathers of girls, I can't even imagine that age where that was a thing. And so, but yeah, no one ever talks about that. Nobody ever talks about how maybe because this was right around the time the same time frame as October 7th, right? I mean, we're
the murder of Charlie Kirk.
The murder of Charlie Kirk, was it not within a month?
October 7th was in the Biden administration. Charlie Kirk was last year.
Charlie Kirk was last year. Okay, so it was a year later.
The assassination.
So it was a year later. Thank you.
It's been about 6 months. Since
man, doesn't it feel like
Charlie
a lot
Kirk
longer?
Was assassinated. Yeah,
you're right. We did this show. We did the. I'll never forget that, Paul.
To death.
Yeah,
I have never been.
He was announced
so sick.
He was announced. His death was announced 15 minutes before we went on air.
You mentioned the Draw Muhammad thing.
But
I don't mean to digress. You mentioned the Draw Muhammad thing, and
okay.
I love this stuff. I love being able to just pull up old stuff. What did the FBI really know before the terrorist attack in Garland, Texas? Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley today is calling on the FBI to explain its advanced knowledge and any plan to thwart a 2015 terrorist attack in Garland, Texas. Grassley's questions follow recent media reports revealing that an undercover FBI agent was not only in communication with the terrorists weeks before the attack, but the agent was also at the scene taking pictures of the terrorists seconds before the shooting began. However, in 2015, FBI Director James Comey indicated that the Bureau was not aware of the perpetrators' plans to travel to Garland or any plans to carry out the attack.
How many people were killed?
I think this was the Draw Muhammad. Nobody was killed. This guy was 86th.
He was trying to. Yeah, that's right.
They held the Draw Muhammad contest as their constitutional rights.
Yes.
And this guy shows up, but he was taken out because it's Texas.
Right.
And you would think the people that are going to a Draw Muhammad contest are going to all be carrying.
Yes.
And they're going to be well trained.
Right.
They took their guns like, I wish somebody would try to keep me from drawing Muhammad. I bring this up because, folks, what is abundantly clear is that the FBI should have been totally abolished. President Trump should have gotten in for a second term. He should have totally abolished the FBI. He should have created a brand new organization because the FBI in the modern context exists to cover up crimes. And in cases like this, they're creating the crimes.
Created it, yes.
And this is just one example, not to mention J6 and whatever else you want to say. And that's another reason why it's like, I'm sorry, but the Charlie Kirk travesty was like the FBI's chance, man, to restore confidence. And I don't know about you. We'll see. I mean, I'm not making an official pronouncement or anything, but I was really upset about just never ever getting the story straight with the rifle and it was in the woods, it was disassembled, it was reassembled, and now nobody knows what's going on. And again,
I don't believe any of it. I mean, we're sitting here, we're doing the Monday morning quarterback and all of that stuff. I get it, but man, we're struggling. We're struggling to figure out what actually happened. What do you got, Paul?
Sorry, we are about to run out of time, but I specifically saved this. For you, because you've got to see this.
This is not funny. Dude murdered somebody, but how the hell he did it, we'll see.
Quadruple amputee professional cornhole player faces murder charge. This is a professional cornhole player who is probably going to be in jail, by the way.
Also known as Bag-O, if you've ever played that game. It's really fun.
A guy by the name of Dayton James Weber, he basically was driving in a car. He had two friends in the back seat. He had another friend in the front seat. They got into an argument. This guy has no hands and no feet. They got in an argument. He was driving, and then he shot the guy, Pulp Fiction style.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Marvin, what do you think, Marvin? Do you really think this was not an accident, though?
Say what again?
Yeah. And just blew the guy's brains out in the car.
Yeah.
The two people in the back seat were freaking out, and he pulled over and said, take the body out of the car. The witnesses said, no, they got out of the car and ran. And so then the guy drove off, and he was eventually found. And this report says...
look at him in his mugshot, man. He's smiling.
Police have not explained how Weber was able, to drive the car and fire a weapon. Okay, but I have the answer for you, Rob. I've got the answer for you.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. TMZ.
Okay, this is him allegedly climbing a deer stand. Okay, so, right?
So this is not AI.
And then here he is firing a gun. So
you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
So
this dude with no legs and no arms can climb a deer stand with his rifle across his back. He can sit here and fire a handgun, and the police are still, puzzled.
It was a perplexing story
because this dude was driving a car, shooting out the window like a gangster.
I guess they stopped at a stoplight. He put the car in park because I don't know how he's got to hold two hands. He's got to have two nubs in order to fire the gun.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
man.
How was he driving? Did he have some sort? I got to know. What did he have? Some sort of apparatus to help him drive a car and reach the gas?
Well, I guess we'll see this thing go. We're out of time.
All right. He wants.
Hey, thanks for our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, folks. We got to go. We'll see you tomorrow. I believe Eric Haynes is going to be back with us. Shout out to our sponsors: Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, 7 Weeks Coffee, Sherry Chiropractic. We'll see you tomorrow.